in this lesson we'll kind of finish out the hood by detaching, adding some detail, and creating the thickness for that hood. So let's go ahead and I'm going to add one line right in here so that we can get kind of a nice curve here to begin with. Let's go ahead and detach this first. So I'm going to go ahead and just select all of these polygons here and just drag across. And we just want to make sure that that's following along with the actual line of the hood that we have, and yes it is. So we'll go ahead and just detach that. So we'll go down to Edit Geometry and detach that, and we'll just detach it so that it's kind of a separate piece there. And now what I want to do is insert, go ahead and select this ring right here, and go ahead and insert an edge right in here. So we'll go ahead and create one segment, and slide that 0, and that's okay. And I'm going to go up to the top view and just use that to kind of create a little bit more of a smooth curve here. Okay, I'll kind of pull that out and just kind of pull this in a little bit. Okay, so we'll get this nice and smooth there. And now what I want to do is I want to add a little bit of thickness here. You can see if I select this polygon object and go ahead and smooth it, you can see how very soft it is, but I want to create a little bit more hardness up there on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab that edge, grab the ring, and slide an edge all the way up to the edge right up here. Okay, and then this should be a little bit harder on the edge when we go ahead and soften it. We can turn off our edge faces if we want to look at that. So that looks a lot better. Okay. And so now what I want to do is I can go ahead and mirror this over to the other side. Okay, so I can add a symmetry modifier. So we'll go ahead and add that. And in this case, I think I want to go ahead and mirror this over in this direction. And we'll just grab that guy and turn off flip and just mirror that right into the middle. And I'll just go ahead and make sure that I've got that right in the center right there. Okay, so that's kind of where I want that to be. And I can take this and go ahead and collapse this. I'll go ahead and say collapse all. Yes. And we want to create a little bit of a kind of a wind split. This very thin kind of crease right along the center. So what I'm going to do is just select the edge here, just this middle edge, and I want to just chamfer that. So go ahead and chamfer, and I want to add 2 segments so that we can retain that edge in the middle, and then I can go in and change that amount so that they're fairly tight, so that when we go ahead and smooth this, it should be fairly subtle, but you should still see kind of a little bit of a crease there, and you can kind of see that right there, which is what we want. Nothing too major. Alright, so go ahead and select this this hood again, and now what we want to do is go ahead and add some thickness to this guy. So one of the big details here of this car that we're doing is this kind of flat ridge that's going to run around this hood and continue around the headlights and around here, so we want to make sure that we get that. So I'm going to go ahead and just to add some thickness to this guy, I could extrude down the edges, but I'm going to go ahead and just add a shell modifier. And so let's go and find our shell. And instead of pulling this up, I want to actually pull it down. So I'm going to change the outer amount to 0 and instead add an inner amount. Okay, and I can take a look here in the front at the width of that. So I'm going to make this maybe something like 2, or maybe 1.5, something like that. Okay. And so this is kind of what we want for that. We'll go ahead and just collapse this. Yes. All right, so we're getting there. But if we now soften this or smooth it, everything's going to be very soft. Okay, so if we go ahead and take a look at this. Oh, we've got editable mesh. I'm going to go ahead and change that to an editable poly. If we go ahead and smooth this, you can see everything's very, very soft. So what we want to do is add some resolution along the edges so that everything is kind of nice and sharp. Okay, and before we do that, I want to make sure that I've got my edge exactly where I want it. So I'm going to go ahead and just select that loop all the way across. Okay, just this the front part of this guy, and I'll just move it out slightly so that it's kind of straight up and down. You can see that. All right, and now for starters, this is going to be very smooth unless we add some edges in here. So I'm going to go ahead and just select this ring right here. And so what we want to do now is just run connect, and I'll just slide that over right to the edge. And so now when that's smoothing it, it's actually smoothing it from here to here instead of from here to here. So it's going to be a little bit tighter. Okay, and we can get that maybe 90. So we have a nice number that we can remember there. All right, and so we can do that on the other side as well. Okay, and just keep in mind, anytime you want to do something on one side, feel free to delete half of it, do it on that side, and then mirror it back over. There's no harm in doing that. So if you know you're going to have a lot of stuff to do on one side, you might want to hold off on actually doing the symmetry on that. So we'll go ahead and add that in there. Now we want to add one across the front as well. Okay, so we'll do the ring selection in this direction, and I'll add one in this way. And I'm going to go ahead and move that up just a little bit more. So now those corners should be nice and tight, but we still need a few along here to make this nice and tight. So I'll go ahead and select from this direction, and this time I'm going to select and do 2 segments, change the slide to 0, and instead use the pinch value to move those up. Okay, and get it something like that. Let's say OK. And now you should see, and let's go ahead and do it one more time up here and in this direction. So we'll select the edge, then a ring, and then we will go ahead and connect. And this is something that you're going to get very used to if you're going to come in and start smoothing things out. So go ahead and set that pinch to 0 and instead slide that up to something like 89, 90. It doesn't have to be exact. It just depends on how hard you want your edges. Okay? And now if I go ahead and smooth this, you can hopefully see the difference here. So you can see how that is. We've got some nice hard edges right in there. We've got a nice ridge right on the front. And so we get the hard edges where we want them and the nice soft edges where we want those. So that helps a lot as far as adding those edges in there. Okay, so now that we've gotten the hood kind of figured out, let's go ahead and in the next lesson we'll look at adding this ridge all the way around. So we need to kind of create some thickness around here and also create this sort of panel that comes in here underneath the grill as well. All right, so we'll go ahead and continue working on the front end of the car in the next lesson.
Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe my channel for more updates.